And welcome to the Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho. And we're starting things out looking at the sun here in 171 angstroms. Small active region in the north central area, right around here. No sunspots. Fairly weak activity. And it looks like NOAA has finally realized that there's a coronal mass ejection headed our way. My guess was a little bit early on when that would arrive. They're calling that it's going to arrive tomorrow. So I'm sticking with my original guesstimate, guessing that it's going to arrive today. And here's the view in 193 angstroms. We've got some custom views. First, we're going to look at stereo A and show you that there are now no coronal mass ejections headed our way behind the ones that we've been covering the last 5 days, as there are several on their way. We don't really see any evidence of those striking the magnetosphere yet, but there's the stereo A view. And again, this is stereo A is out here, giving us insight into coronal mass ejections that are in the Earth-facing zone. And there you can see the latest run. None there. Let's look at HelioViewer real quick. 171 angstroms faded out to magnetogram, showing us that active region in the north, not a sunspot, no real significant areas of magnetic complexity. Next, we took images of both the north and south pole area, as these will be increasingly studied over the next couple of years. So there's the 193 angstroms view of the North Pole. Allow me to vanish. And here's one of the South Pole. You see that giant southern solar polar coronal hole. Very large and very in charge of the current sheet. And the pun is intentional. Here's where things are in the solar system. There's where things will be in a week, as Venus is making its way to make a pass. Here's where stuff is above my head. If you want to make a star chart for yourself, check out in-the-sky.org. It's what I like to use to make my star charts. You can even animate them if you like this. Okay, maybe not. Something wrong with the plug-in there, perhaps. Anyway, I like to face mine south and draw in the ecliptic, as that is the way I'm currently facing. It's also the way my sofa faces. How do you like that? Anyway, we've got a pile-up happening once again. We've got Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all rising before the Sun, making for some great opportunities to view those objects. KP index is at 1, and here's what we're talking about. Possible CME impact. Expecting it to be on the 7th, which seems like an awfully long time. I would expect that to be any time now, really. And we're really here at spaceweather.com to look at the 10.7 centimeter radial flux, which remains at 70 solar flux units. X-ray flux is quite flatlined, as you can see there on the graph. And we're going to look at cosmic rays real quick. Here's the Apatity neutron monitor. There's the last 24 and the last 30 days. And there's Barentsburg. Nothing too exciting happening there. Let's look at Athens next. Here's the Athens neutron monitor. And a pretty anomalous reading there. Kind of the opposite of what we saw at Moscow. We'll get to it in a minute. An extreme drop-off. Now that's probably erroneous, as it's highly unlikely that its percentage of cosmic rays went down nearly 40% all at once. Next, we'll look at Mexico City, as we do most days when we look at cosmic rays, although we don't cover them every day. By the way, if you're viewing live on Twitch, cheers. If you're viewing on YouTube, don't forget to press like and subscribe and share on your social media. And if you're viewing on BitChute, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. No, if you're viewing on YouTube, you're not the dregs of society. Don't freak out. Here's the Mexico City cosmic ray monitor. Nothing too exciting happening there. Here's Moscow. Let's see if it's back online yet. Offline since February 27th. Showing over a 20% uptick there and then shutting down. And last but not least, we'll look at Oulu, Finland. No, don't touch me there. This is my cosmic ray flux square. There's Oulu. DOMB Antarctica not sending data, and there's DOMC Antarctica. And let's move on to more stuff. We always link to the network of cosmic ray stations so you can monitor them yourself. Now we're going to look at some transients. These are the X-ray emissions from objects. We're starting out with one inside our own galaxy. And you could arguably say that it is our own galaxy, Sagittarius A star, the core of the Milky Way. And you can see that it has indeed been ramping up here. This transient here, for instance, which occurred about 5 days ago, was all the way up in this range. So you can see there is some uptick there for the X-ray output of Sagittarius A star. Next we're going to look at another X-ray source in the galaxy, Cygnus X1. Widely believed to be a black hole. We just call it a massive radio source. And there are the most recent transients from that. And nothing too exciting happening there. Let's see. 0.05 is right there. And 0.05 is right here. So nothing too crazy happening from Cygnus X1. Let's go to the most consistent source of cosmic rays, Cygnus X3, at least as far as I know. Cygnus X3, otherwise known as the star Deneb, having just come out of its quiescent state. Let's hope it doesn't go into a hyperactive state. And we saw some very high-level transients here coming out of this recently, once again, all the way up to 0.07, which is way up here. Some of the most powerful transients we've ever seen come out of it. The strongest we've ever seen were actually in around the last solar minimum right here. So, Cygnus X3 is definitely an object to watch, especially after it comes out of its quiescent state. As you can see right here, here's the zero line. And its normal state is more like around 0.03. If you're not familiar with Cygnus X3, check out our smAsho.com/forum in the cosmology section. There's an entire section devoted strictly to that one object. Cygnus X3, massive X-ray binary. Next we're going to look at the Vela pulsar, which is on the other side of the galactic arm. And we saw a big outburst right here. Check out that outburst. That's a big one. And that was just a few days ago, actually. And this one reached all the way up off of this scale. So there's 0.1, and that would be way up here. That's where that would actually be if it was showing up on the graph. So some big outbursts from Vela pulsar. Perhaps we'll see some studies coming out on that. Hey, radio astronomers, drop me a line. And lastly, we're going to look at Crab Nebula, not Carb Nebula, Crab Nebula, which is around the same area as the Vela pulsar from viewing perspective. This is a very consistent source of X-rays to the point where it's used to calibrate telescopes, and nothing too exciting happening there. This level is around 0.225, and you can see that's right in its normal range there. Nothing too exciting happening from Crab. And if you've got interesting objects to watch, let us know. Drop us a line, smashomash@gmail.com. Neil Gorell Swift Observatory, showing you X-ray fluxes from various objects. Next we'll look at the real-time solar wind. We see a shifting phi angle, right now around 220 degrees. A highly shifting BTBZ, a very powerful South Pole-oriented magnetism coming from the sun right now. We see a BZ of -4.1 and a BT of 8.3. So it's a strong field, and it's quite oriented from the south solar pole. Solar wind density coming in right now at 13.7 protons per cubic centimeter. And in fact, some of this stuff here could be incoming coronal mass ejection ejecta. And we see a ramp up just in the past few hours of the solar wind speed. So there, the solar wind speed popping up to 365 kilometers a second. And that does look like a coronal hole wind stream, perhaps, or it could be a coronal mass ejection. It's tough to tell, as we have mixed inputs here right now. Anyway, there's the data from ACE. And next we'll look at the geospace magnetosphere movies. And we see quite a wide set of Van Allen belts here, as these border regions between where you see pressure and no pressure, that's where the Van Allen belts are lined up. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data. And we try to view this daily. Next, we'll look at ground magnetic perturbations. For you new viewers out there, I don't know if you're aware, the South Pole has left Antarctica, and it's creeping up this way toward southwestern Australia. We've also got 2 poles in the north, one here over northern Canada, one here over Siberia, making the net pole in around this region. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data on that. And let me just rock this back here. Nothing real crazy going on there, although the main northern perturbations are over the Canadian North Pole, not the Siberian. We see extreme divergence of the GOES magnetometer data here. You can see the GOES 15 dipping down at the same time the GOES 16 is rising up, just coming off of midnight local time, which is what these N's and M's mean. That is noon time for the GOES 16, and this is midnight time for the GOES 15. And we've been forecasting this constant sawtooth situation, and those forecasts are based on the Gong 2 data. And you can see different plasma densities. For instance, this zone here is pretty dense. This zone here is pretty diffuse. And plasma has the ability to block our magnetometers from being able to get readings. So that's part of the way the cookie crumbles, folks. And we're expecting to remain solidly in the South Pole oriented portion of the current sheet, shown here in red. Here's the line of sight field plot. North solar pole field shown in green, south solar polar field shown in red, and the B field shown in blue. Relativistic electrons have dropped down, as well as the lower voltage electron flux. We're talking about greater than or equal to 2 or greater than or equal to 0.8 mega electron volts. And it looks like the GOES 14 remains offline here for a couple of days, hopefully not damaged. And the total electron content is quite low, and you can see it here reflected on the forecast. Don't expect GPS errors today. It looks pretty smooth for your GPS sailing. Now we're looking at the ionosphere, and it's looking pretty normal here. We do see some slight charge ups over the South Pacific, and we've been watching this area for a couple of months as we've seen constant anomalies in that region. Otherwise, it's looking pretty normal. Here's the latest image, and we see a charge up on the sun-facing portion of the planet here, up to 14 megahertz. By the way, our videos keep getting demonetized on YouTube. Yesterday's video titled, no, not yesterday's, 2 days ago, we titled one, Biden takes the lead, Google can't succeed, alt tech need support our feed. That one's still being determined, but this one here has been confirmed by manual review to be ineligible for monetization, which is why we should pull it from YouTube entirely, but I guess who really cares? And this brings me to the fact that Google is a scam and not a verb. If you want to read all about it, check out smashomash.com/forum in the free-for-all section. There's a whole thread about how Google is a scam, since it is. So please stop using it as a verb. Google doing everything it can to ruin the internet, as the internet makes sure that it breaks Google instead of being broken by Google. Well done, Google. Well done. You are pathetic. Thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding for the videos. As you can see, Google YouTube Junkware tries its best to pay us nothing. So thanks, patrons, for being assistant and associate producers of the content. Also, thanks to our subscribe star base. And please don't forget to follow us on alt tech like BitChute, where there's pretty much zero possibility of our channel suddenly being deleted with no warning or explanation, as there's constant danger of that on YouTube. And thanks to our new subs, we are blowing up on BitChute and getting hundreds more views per video than we do on YouTube's Junkware platform. Also, follow us on Minds. It's an alternative to Facebook, where you won't be censored, you won't be shadow banned. You'll get your 576,000 views, and we'll post whatever the hell we want. So up yours, Google, and up yours, Facebook. You companies suck at life. Here's the windy.com pressure maps. We're starting out now and then advancing that via the GFS forecast. And there's a building low off the coast of New Jersey. We're going to pause this at about 24 hours from when we made the video. Here's where things will be at 1 p.m. my time. And it's 4:59. Do you know where your pressure zones are? Next, we'll look at earthquakes. The past 24. And we still see a drought of 6+ magnitude earthquakes, folks. And let's scroll up the list. Looks like the largest in the past 24 might have been this 5.6 north of New Zealand in an ocean rift zone. That one occurring at the surface. Here's a quake at an odd spot here. It is on a plate boundary, but very far south in the southern mid-Atlantic ridge region. Here's an Indonesian quake at depth that's 157 kilometers and a 4.2 magnitude. Here's a Chilean quake at a 4.6 magnitude and 102 kilometers. And just scrolling up the list here, here's a Colombian quake, very far north in South America. That is a 4.6 magnitude and 171 kilometers. Here's one in Venezuela. It's a 5.0 at 91 kilometers. And let's talk about insanity files. Some guy dressed up as the Joker, and then he went out in public live streaming to Facebook, making all kinds of death threats, stating that he can't be inebriated when he's planning on, killing a bunch of people, and claiming that he had planted bombs and so on. We've updated smAsho.com/forum to include this story in our insanity files section. It's part of the general science forum. Yes, insanity is science. Anyway, if you've checked out smAsho.org, thanks for clicking. If you haven't, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Head to smAsho.org. We've got links to our social media up here, as well as links to the forum. Click on that for the newly unveiled smAsho forum, where we have a massive repository of information on coronavirus. And we see bond yields cratering, indicating massive buying in the municipal treasury bonds market. Stocks cratered again, and the central banks of the world have dropped rates in an emergency session in the case of the U.S. Let's talk about what really works to keep coronavirus away, COVID-19. What can I do to prevent becoming infected? Wash your hands. It's easier to wash your hands than to clean surfaces. Masks, unless you're wearing a N95 mask, they don't really protect you, as the particles are too small to be filtered out by regular painting masks or surgical masks. Those are to protect you from infecting others. Should you stockpile food and supplies? Well, you should have some food and supplies ready just always. And this suggests that you should have 3 days worth. We've got about probably about a month's worth in our prepping tub. Let's look at the numbers here on Johns Hopkins, and you can see this yellow graph here, which is cases outside of China, is continuing to level out, it looks like. That's a good thing. Chinese cases leveling out, and the green graph looking pretty linear. Total cases worldwide, 98,698. Total deaths, 3,383. 55,000 people have recovered. And we've put information about coronavirus on our Nextdoor.com page. Now, if you're not familiar with Nextdoor.com, it is a way to network your neighborhood. So if you don't have a Nextdoor neighborhood where you're located, set one up yourself. It's what I did. And we've got nearly 50%. I think it's actually more like 60% of our neighbors are now in our Nextdoor.com network. And it's a great way to do stuff like trade things, barter. You could help your neighbors watch each other's properties when they go on vacation and all that sort of good stuff. So it'll raise your security, it'll raise your networking ability, and it will help you to be able to deal with disasters. It's Nextdoor.com. And let's look at the volcano rundown. Recanes has been showing increased seismic activity, an indication that it may erupt big time again. I believe the last time was in 2008. At the last solar minimum, I might add. Mount Aso producing a flight level 6,000 ash plume. Suwanuse-jima recorded 2 explosive eruptions and produced a 3,000-foot plume of ash. Tocono exploding, flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl, Fuego, and Revenador all exploding, producing 21,000, 16,000, and 15,000-foot plumes of ash. And Sabancaya is producing intermittent emissions of volcanic ash. Please do not attempt to pole vault the caldera. And please do not attempt to tightrope walk the caldera. If you knew about that, well, more power to you. If not, watch our video from yesterday where we cover the story. Here's lightning maps, and there's where lightning is currently striking. It's lightningmaps.org. Next, we'll do a value-added service. It's the U.S. Doppler radar map, measuring vertical motion in the air column with ground-based systems. Indiana and Ohio getting some snow, and we're looking at the possibility we might get some in Pennsylvania this weekend, and I'm hoping that we do. Next, we'll look at the eastern jets. There are the jet streams on nullschool.net. Here are the western jet streams. Next, we're going to look at some water vapor maps. Here is Europe and Africa. There are the time and date stamps. Here is Oceania and the Far East. There are the time and date stamps for that. And lastly, we're going to look at the U.S. water vapor map to see if there's anything exciting to look at. And we're going to look at central Colorado this time, as there is a convergence happening there. Impress your friends, impress your foes by forecasting things like flight turbulence. If your pals are going to fly across a massive pressure gradient like this one right here, if you're going this way, it's going to be like you're hitting a wall, and if you're going this way, you're going to feel like you're falling out of the sky for a minute. As dry air requires lower air speeds due to its density, I don't know if you were aware, but some interesting lenticular clouds should be forming over the eastern Rockies today. So if you're in these areas, go out and get a photo, because it's going to be... Perhaps Mr. MBB333 will think there's a spaceship in the sky when it's actually just a lenticular cloud. Hey, Smash team, thanks for tuning in to the Smash stream. Especially if you viewed it on Twitch, or whether you're on BitChute or whether on YouTube. Share the content on your social media, as we've got bonus of features. It's the intensity gram of the local yellow dwarf, showing you a 0 sunspots. Next, we're going to look at the magnetogram. And we use the colorized one at ultra-high res here to show you no real activity. A couple small organizations there. And lastly, we're going to show the 131 angstroms view. It's a 48-hour video, like the ones we showed at the beginning. So thanks for tuning in, folks. We are out of here. Remember, stare at the sun. Don't drink, and if you do, don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back. And may the nonsense on the internet not invade your mind. And may the atherosclerosis be absent from your arteries.